Simona is a 1974 Italian drama film directed by Patrick Longchamp and starring Laura Antonelli, Maurizio degli Esposti and Raffaellon. Simona is a film that surprises despite being unsold, incomplete, with evident forcing of the script and linked to the intellectual taste of the 70s. But perhaps this is precisely its strength, its ambiguous and perverse charm, the reason why we could like to recommend its vision and recovery. And then there is an extraordinary Laura Antonelli, sunny, uninhibited at the peak of her beauty and at the peak of her success, in the best moment of her career. They call her to do everything. Her presence in a cast alone is enough to guarantee the success of the film. Simona is a melodrama taken from History of the Eye by Georges Bataille, written, directed and scripted by Belgian Longchamp, in true Jordi Amato or Jazz Franco style, but with a greater desire to create auteur cinema. I did an internship with Fellini, said the director, and this is worth more than 1,000 film schools. It is not so true, but still the goodwill is visible and also a certain creative imagination. The story is set in the cold northern seas in Nokeheist, a Belgian town in the Flemish province of West Flanders. The opening and closing scene are shot in Spain, because everything is a long flashback of the protagonist watching a bullfight. The romantic tone is underlined by the narrative voice of Antonio Colonello, by the marked poetic diction, and by a very literary text taken from Bataille's novel. Simona is the perverse lover of the young George. One day, the two lovers meet Marcel, who lives segregated in a village, together with a crazy father and a depraved uncle. Simona and George try to free the girl from the paternal influence and from the uncle with whom she had incestuous relation after the death of her mother. Together with Marcel, they form a ménage à trois dedicated to group love, erotic follies, and 1,000 perversion. The ending is a bloodbath with dark melodramatic hues. At times, it borders on horror, when the director paints the figure of his father as a crazy killer embalmer. The macabre dance with the mother's corpse is noteworthy, and the sequence of the murders of brother and daughter are also unforgettable. Laura Antonelli acts with professionalism. Her image of her is characterized by a mixture of strong sensuality and candid innocence, an artistic figure that distinguishes her from other interpreters of erotic cinema. Raffaellon and Patrick Maggi are well immersed in the dramatic interpretation. Margaret St. Anne shows herself in all her youthful beauty. In a minor tone, Maurizio degli Esposti as an anonymous lover. Simona is a film that enjoys many advantages. First of all, a photograph curated by L.S. Parolin, which portrayed Nordic landscape between sandy beaches, inclement wind and stormy sea, but also female faces and bodies enhanced in detail. Franco Arcali's editing is not tight, but the film and the taste of the time foresee extended times. Fiorenzo Capi's music is a real melodramatic symphony masterfully directed by Bruno Nicolai. The director knows how to do it. He even seemed to mention the style of Tintobrass in numerous erotic sequences at risk of censorship. The milk under the skirt, the egg on Laura Antonelli's body, the female relationship, the love in threesome, the uncle-nephew relationship, group love, the erotic provocation to the young altar boy. The censorship of the time does not kidnap and does not censor that much, but bans the film to children under the age of 18. Many dream images the sea that burst between one erotic sequence and another, many flashback, thoughts that refer to the past and many references to Freud, psychoanalytic element to justify madness and segregation. The director follows many ideas in vogue in the 70s, uses psychoanalysis to explain behavioral defects and problems in adulthood, tracing everything back to the dramatic event of childhood. Of course, Longchap would like to make auteur cinema, and at times he aspired in the B-movie. But this is also the charm of the film. Without neglecting uneven excessive contamination of genre, ranging from romantic to erotic, passing through melodrama, horror and surrealism. Phrases such as the past has become an internal present. Changing only one part means destroying it. They know of an old-fashioned appendix, but they are the director's stylistic code. Love and death, romantic sequences by the sea, extreme eroticism, a car racing on the water's edge, the madness of a desperate father, melodramatic and even surreal sequences with stuffed animals flying free in the night sky. The ending is symbolic. Simona witnesses the death of the tonno. She remembers the past, while the stuffed animals are revived and fly free in the form of chrysalises. A film to be rediscovered, which in Italy has not had great circulation. But the pulp video series filled the gap by publishing a meager DVD with no extras. The audacious director translated George Battalli's sulphurous history of the eye in the key of surrealist calligraphic eroticism. But when he put the fascination of the anarchist rebellion expired to absurdity from aborted intellectual B-movie, as they did at the time. To be recovered, however, for the interpretation of Antonelli, seldom so funny, and this costume. Pino Ferrinotti sum up the plot all too briefly, but does not express any judgment. Morandini does not even mention the film. Giulio Beruti writes about Cotto in short, free lesson for making film. A film that with greater attention and professional maturity from the director as well as from the Italian production would have had an extraordinary success with audiences and critics. Patrick Longchamp, a person of great intelligence and sensitivity, faced this adventure with his own money and very little professional training. Patrick had great creative imagination, but he was totally lacking in technique and editing rule. This is why he built a work made up of many beautiful photographs but little film. While watching a bullfight, Simone remembers she recalls the day when, as she was making love on the beach with her lover George, she was being spied on by a girl. She recollects how George and she made friends with Marcel and how they find out that she was under the thumb of her demented father and her wicked uncle, how they became a ménage à trois, and how tragically all that ended. This started out with a pretty nasty bullfighting scene, but moves on to become a wonderfully surreal tale of love, lust and murder. It contains plenty of fun moments that will leave you scratching your head. The criminally underrated Laura Antonelli is superb as the titular Simona. A series of strange, erotic, dreamy and dark memories come over Simone as she watches a bullfight. She and her friend George pull Marcel into a bizarre, seaweed-drenched threesome on the beach. Marcel lives with her eccentric taxidermist father, Patrick Maggie, in a castle. She looks a little like Angela Pleasance. She has an incestuous relationship with her anachronistically dressed uncle because she resembles her dead mother, his sister. There is a party in the cemetery in which naked statues come to life. I am not sure what's going on in this film, but it provides enigmatic pleasure to those not terribly concerned with a concise storyline. It's about memory, I guess, and it's an adaptation of George Batali's Story of the Eye by a man who made no other movies. Arty erotic cinema, close to what Alberto Cavallano did back then, and based here directly in Batali. Love, death, ritual art, surrealism, sublime, eschatology, all the usual reporter of the philosopher capture with a lot of rhythm, beauty and 70s decadence galore. Yes, it is pretentious to the utmost, but never boring, and it works very well. There are uber bizarre scenes that are worth by themselves. Hopefully, someday this is restored it as it should, is a perfect choice for Mondo Macabro. The erotic drama is based on George Batali's novel History of the Eye. The story takes place in the Belgian province of West Flanders and is introduced by footage from Spain from bullfighting. Simon, a freethinker, meets George and they become lovers. Together they meet the young and beautiful Marquis of Marcelo de Pale. The girl engages in her erotic game and invites them to her father's house by the sea. Her half-made father and a perverted uncle, who had previously had an incestuous relationship with the girl, live in the village. The house is full of stuffed animals, which is a hobby of the father, and it is not the only secret he hides. Simona and George decide to help the girl and free her from the influence of her despotic father and perverted uncle. Simona was never released in Belgium, both for censorship and family reasons. Margot Margaret's was Patrick's Longchamp's wife, and the director followed his father-in-law's advice not to show the film for some time, not to harm his family life. This was allegedly Laura Antonelli's first film, but following Salvatore Sempri's advice, Patrick Longchamp shelved his film for a year and waited until Malaysia Sempri's own film was released before showing it. Malaysia made Laura Antonelli an overnight success. When Simona came out, people flocked to the cinema just to see Laura in what was billed as Laura Antonelli's first film. Simona was produced in the early 70s, definitely during Laura Antonelli's most prolific and successful time of movie making. It is surprising then that this movie quickly slipped into obscurity. But it does not take more than 10 minutes of watching to understand why. It is a desolate village somewhere on the Belgian beaches. It is fall. The shy young man George meets the hooker Simona and they quickly fall in love. Then they encounter the strange young girl Marcel and 2 plus 1 equals 3. Marcel's problem is her degenerate father, a body perpetrator, who has never forgotten over the death of his wife and sees Marcel as some form of replacement. When he finds out about the girl's contact to George and Simona, he locks her up in his castle. The rescue attempt have tragic consequences. While this may sound like a love drama, the movie is 70s weirdness galore. No other decade could produce anything comparable and bring it to the big screen. I guess the name Laura Antonelli would sell everything at that time, but that's a little bluff anyway. Laura's role is not too big and that important to justify naming the movie after it. If any, the movie should be called Marcel. Don't expect anything here, especially not the plot. No character development or even comprehensible behavior, just a lot of what the moment. This movie wants to be strange, different and vanguard by all means, and is definitely successful at that. There is plenty of nudity, but it's never erotic. The love is weird and disgusting. All characters are either weirdos or complete maniac, with the exception of Marcel, who is the tragic center of event and the only person you can relate to. The thin story is less about telling, but more about experiencing and breaking convention. There are long sequences which, I guess, are supposed to resemble a drug trip, where statues come alive, they dance, they feast. It's a party and the trio is in the middle. And there are many more dreamlike, supernatural elements throughout the film. The father and his freak brother are of course the icing on the cake in their pure insanity, the only element to give this movie an edge of excitement. I really like the location chosen for shooting. They are very moody and creepy, be it the empty beach, the forgotten theater in the wood, or the castle. By 1974, Laura Antonelli obviously wanted to leave the comedy genre behind and went for more serious role that challenged her as an actress. Simona was not too good a pick, as said, although having the main credit, her part is not too important, and running around and behaving utterly idiotic is nothing to distinguish yourself as an actor. While there is not too much Laura nudity to see, oh boy is she beautiful. You'd really wish she had more scene, especially in the second half. Overall, it's not hard to see why this movie is so little known and why the IMDb average is so low. It goes straight past general audience's expectation and convention. I clearly admit I watched this just because of Laura Antonelli and I didn't like it. Definitely not my cup of tea, but giving a rating wouldn't do it justice. I must say the images and the whole experience stuck more with me than I expected. I guess that's what the director wanted. The drama film begin and end with two Spanish bullfighting scenes. Simona assists you but without interest, and meanwhile relive her erotic experience in Belgium, by the sea, or in her house with George. The Marquis Marcel de Pale, who should have died and buried together with her father Marquis, and instead leads a life buried alive in the paternal villa, together with her father, an expert embalmer, morbidly attached to the mummy of his wife and his father, intervene in their story. Daughter Marcel is young and wants to live even if she doesn't like erotic experiences with her uncle. Simona and George's task is to free Marcel from the despotic subjection to her father, and so the experiences, which also degenerate into love parties, take place in threesomes. The conclusion of the squalid affair is a series of killing by the Marquis. George, Marcel, his uncle and a stable boy are killed. Simona, as if awakening from a macabre dream, finds herself at the bullfight, where they kill a bull and drag it out of the arena, while in the gloomy villa of the Marquis de Pele all the bird and stuffed animal come to life and flee freely.